we're live. No. So crap at this. Oh, an ad's popped up, which means I think we're live.
We're going?
I'm pretty sure. Let me skip the ad. Yeah, we're going live. I think we've actually been going live for a couple minutes, so I'm an idiot.
Oh,
All right.
yeah, live now. Okay.
All right, how's it going? Wait for people to come into the chat. How's it going, everybody? This is Will Robson here. Today I am joined with Zeb Wells, who is the writer of this little comic book right here, which we made together. Spider Ham. It's the most fun I've ever had drawing a comic. So thank you for joining. Please tell everybody your accolades and achievements and who you are and what you do.
Oh, okay. Well, I've been writing comics since 2002. 2002, yeah. And I've also written on Robot Chicken, directed a couple seasons of that, and then still in the stop motion world, did a show called Super Mansion for 3 seasons, which I co-created and ran and directed the first season, and now I'm back writing comics.
That's awesome. So, I mean, so you haven't done much. And what comics are you doing now? You're doing Ant-Man, right?
Yeah, Ant-Man, Spider-Ham, which issue 5 still hasn't come out yet, right? But
No,
it is coming out.
Yeah.
It's coming out as a hard copy, I believe, so you'll be able to get that. And then I'm on Hellions.
Hellions, what's that?
That is one of the Dawn of X books, in the X-Men family.
Oh, right, yeah. I think I saw a tweet from CB Cebulski and you were in this big video chat with a bunch of people.
Oh, yeah. We just did that on Friday. We're working on the big X of Swords crossover. Or 10 of Swords.
10 of Swords. Is there any news about that? Is that out there yet? I don't want you to spoil
anything. I think that's coming out in September. They just released an image and a teaser image. So, but we're getting started. It seems like they're starting publishing again in July or maybe even the end of June.
Yeah, I believe that was it yesterday that I think they announced publicly that that basically there'll be new weekly comics in July, I think. Yeah.
Yeah. And you were working on something when it all went to hell, right?
I was, yeah. I'm not allowed to talk about it though. But
okay, great. Then I will stop prodding you.
But I'm working again with more TV writers. I guess they just keep chucking TV writers at me.
Yuck.
So tell me how you got the Spider-Ham job.
Oh, so I had not done comics for a while. I was too busy while I had the TV show, but my wife ended up getting cast on Saturday Night Live.
Oh, really?
Yeah. And so about a couple years ago, she's been on for 3 seasons now, but we were going back and forth between LA and New York, and so, finally I moved out to New York, and I started just having lunch with the editors at Marvel, and I was trying to figure out what I was going to do next, and Nick Lowe started, seducing me back to the dark side, and I did a 10-page Spider-Man story for him in Nick Spencer's Amazing Spider-Man, and just had such a good time. And then they asked me to pitch on Ant-Man. Then I pitched on Spider-Ham. And
so did they ask you to pitch on Spider-Ham, or did you say, "Hey, I've got a Spider-Ham story"?
No, they asked me to, and when they did, I was like, I don't know if that sounds like what I should be doing career-wise. But then I started thinking about it, and I was like, oh, I don't know, that could be really fun. And then I told Devin that I was like, well, it would have to be the right artist to do it, like somebody that would have fun sort of living in that world and do the cartoony stuff justice, but also have fun designing all the other sort of animal-like characters. And that's when he sent me your stuff, and I was like, oh yeah, I'd love to do it with this guy. So
that's awesome.
And then I think that once I started seeing those Spider-Ham pages, I knew that we had something good going on.
Yeah, I just had I just had so much fun. It's funny that you say like I don't know if that's the right career move for me because I actually thought the same exact thing. Because I
Right.
was just on Future Foundation, and I was trying to move my art more towards serious stuff because I love
Yeah.
drawing. I want to draw Batman fighting the Joker, but I keep I draw Spider Ham fighting
Right.
silly people, and that's fine. That's like I know that's what I'm known for, but. Right after that Future Foundation book, I was like, right, I need to land something. I need to get Daredevil or something cool that's gonna
Yeah,
give me
yeah,
some
yeah,
credit.
yeah.
And then I was like, Spider Ham. I was like, oh well, I don't know if I can actually say no to that. That does sound pretty
Yeah,
fun.
once I started thinking about it, it sounded too fun to not do. And then I think when it was announced, I think you might be the same way where I was thinking of Spider-Ham as a character from when I was a kid who had he would show up in the back of Marvel Tales or had like an unsuccessful run on his comic, but I didn't realize how much people loved that character from the movie,
Yeah.
the Spider-Verse movie, so it got a good reaction and then it was kind of fun to do a book that was goofy but to do it or try to do it at the top of your ability, like take it seriously, see if this is a goofy book with jokes, how many jokes can we jam into it or how goofy can we make it? Like if I try my hardest on it with the script, how much fun can we have? And then I feel like once your art started coming in, we started playing off each other and had a good time. Like I remember for issue 3 when I asked you if I was like sniffing around. What if I write a double page spread that has like 60 characters on it? Is that something you'd be willing to draw? And you were like, yeah, but maybe give me some simpler pages around that page so I can stay on schedule.
I mean, you did.
Which led, yeah, which led to that. Oh, my watch is yelling at me. But which led to that fun stuff where they were sort of in between the pages and they were sticking their head through those holes and to do the little asides that had happened in the comic, like the first couple issues of that, I had thrown in those asides with Spider Ham coming through a little hole, sort of like Porky Pig,
Now,
just to make comments.
did you have that idea already, or was that because I just drew that one panel where he was in a circle? Because I remember I did that, and you were like, I like that circle panel.
Yeah, I kept doing. Yeah, I liked it, and so I kept doing it because I saw that I liked it, and then when you asked for the simple pages, I thought, oh, maybe there's a way to have them not just be cartoony asides. Maybe they can actually be part of the story. And so I was that was one of my favorite parts. How suddenly this little idea that I had thrown in there, and then you drew it a certain way, and then I liked it and did it more, and then suddenly it was this big meta thing where he was in the middle of the comic. He just stops and is reading the comic from the beginning all the way to the end. I really like that.
Well, I really enjoyed doing issue 1 because I've drawn Spider-Man on a couple of books before, and I still haven't found the way I want to draw Spider-Man. I always mess it up because I just find the character so intimidating. So that's why if you look at the book, I draw Spider-Man about 70 different ways. I'm like, should he have bigger eyes,
Right.
little eyes, round eyes, square eyes? So I hope people don't notice that. But I had the most fun on the first issue because that was the most Spider-Man thing I've ever drawn in my life. Even though they were animal characters, I got to draw like
Right.
Spidey fights in New York City. He goes to see Aunt May. He goes to the Daily Bugle. J. Jonah Jameson
Yeah.
yells at him.
Right.
I was like, wow. I was like,
Yeah.
this is what I want to do.
Yeah, I think you're absolutely right. I was noticing that too, that you somehow got to write sort of the 80s versions of all these characters, which is kind of the ones that I grew up with and loved. And we could have Avengers Mansion in there. And just like the kind of the older stuff that I remembered,
And that's why
and
I chucked them in all
old
the old
characters.
costumes as well.
Yeah, yeah. So it kind of felt like a fun who's who of 80s nostalgia.
No.
And yeah, like if we ever got to do that again, I think it'd be fun to live in that world a little bit more.
That would be my
To
ultimate, definitely.
yeah, yeah, to make the confines that we have to stay in that world and explore what that sort of animal version of the Marvel universe is, and give them some stakes that sort of come from their world, instead of, see if we could do a fun one without the dimension hopping in there. I think that'd be interesting.
That's yeah, because like the moment the dimension hopper came in, I was like, oh man, can we stay in New York City? Because
Yeah,
that'd be
yeah,
too much fun.
I felt the same way.
So are you? So when it comes to comics, is it mostly Marvel that you've done?
Yeah, it is. And I'm fiddling around on some creator owned stuff now, because I never did creator owned in what I consider like the first half of my career before I left to do my show. I hadn't really done any creator owned stuff, and I just want to stretch doing that. And it was fun once I sat down and started writing it. It felt really freeing and fun to do something where really whatever you think of, you can do. You don't have to consider the continuity implications or what's come before with a character. You can do your own thing.
Yeah, definitely. Well, I can definitely attest to that. There's the amount of times I've drawn fun little Easter eggs in comics where they're like, you can't do that because this character died like 10 years ago.
Right.
And he came back
Right.
and now he doesn't have an arm. So if you want to do it, you got to take his arm off and
Yeah.
all that type of stuff.
Yeah.
That's
And
awesome.
yeah, I never feel like I sold enough comics to. I felt like I was always like having to work within what the big boys were doing. You kind of have to weasel your way through, thread the needle of what everyone else is doing. So it's cool to be able to just make those calls yourself and not second guess yourself all the time.
Yeah. So I got a question here to you both, to both you and Zeb. If you could choose one other character from Spider-Ham's universe to have their own miniseries, who would you most like to work on? I definitely know my answer to that.
Ooh,
Because there's
man, that's tough. What's your answer?
Wolverine.
Oh yeah.
I don't know
Oh
why. I
shit.
just love drawing him.
Yeah. Oh no, I think it would be an X-Men book, like an X-Men book in that world. I think if we did it again, I would certainly pitch like Spider-Man and the X-Men,
Let's do it.
have some sort of adventure, and like explore that. Maybe we could get like a one shot or something.
That would be amazing. Yeah, and again,
Yeah.
because it's like I mean, I could just make them all look like they're just from the '80s, like Cyclops with a full
Yeah.
head thing, and
And all that great 80s soap opera, like to throw Spider-Ham in the middle of that with the X-Men versions of the characters trying to get with each other and doing their big long soap opera would be awesome.
that sounds amazing. So tell me a bit about how you broke into writing for comics and for TV.
Well, it was sort of a roundabout way where me and my friends, when I was in college, we started making videos, just really dumb, funny videos back when, there was no YouTube or any way to share them, so you would just take them to parties. And like a lot of times we would go to a party and just put it in the VCR and hit play and then run away and see if people noticed that they were playing. But I used to read Wizard magazine, and they had a contest, a video making contest. So I had a friend who looked a lot like the Incredible Hulk, or we thought he did, and so we painted him up green and made a comedic video about the Hulk. He had lost his job, so he tried to be a short order cook and a caddy, and it all ended in violence and rage. And I think it ended with him becoming a stripper, and then he disappeared into some pimp's car, and it was just and it ended with Runaway Train playing. Uh, but it was pretty funny. I think it was very rough, but it won the Wizard contest, which kind of got me in with those guys. And then we entered the second year, and we won again. And that year, we got to go to Chicago for the Wizard Awards, and they presented me with an award, and I was able to give a speech. And I was such a comic book nerd that I was like making very insidery jokes during
Right.
my speech. And after that, the next day I heard Axel Alonso wanted to talk to me, so I found him, and he offered me a story of writing an issue of Tangled Web of Spider-Man,
Wow. So you first,
which was like my little mind exploded. Like that was
how old were
I
you?
was such a I think I was 20. It was like 2000, 2001, so I was 24. And so I was right out of college, had no idea what I was going to do, knew I wanted to do entertainment stuff, but I was like painting houses at the time, and it was weird to leave and go to that convention and then come back and start painting houses, but suddenly I was a comic book writer.
Right.
It was a lot. It was pretty cool. But then of course like I took it too seriously. The stress of it almost killed me, but
Oh, really? Yeah. I mean, that's a lot of people
yeah.
don't know. Like, it's drawing and writing comics. It is a dream job, but man, like, there's a reason why not many people do it because it is tough work, and
Yeah.
I sound like you sound like a bit of a dick saying that because there's people digging ditches and stuff like that,
Right.
and you're thinking like,
Right.
what will Spider-Man do on this page? But I don't know, it's a weird mental game, especially when it comes to
It
art.
is a weird. Yeah, it's a weird mental game, and especially when you love the characters and grew up with this stuff,
Yeah,
you I mean, I almost wish I could take it like 20% less seriously. I would have had so much more fun back in the day. I feel like I've gotten my process under control now, but back then I just took it so seriously. It was like somebody had said, "Oh, we're adding a book to the Bible, and you get to write it.
yeah,
So better be good." And I think under that much, it's a weird balance you have to strike because you've got to take it seriously, and it's got to be important to you, so you can do your best work. But then if it's too important to you, you freeze up. And so, I learned a lot. I learned a lot writing comics about being a person and how my mind works and how to not let stress affect you as much. But it took me a long time. I think that's why I wasn't as productive or prolific when I first started,
so
because
how
they
long?
always took so much out of me.
So you got a gig on Tangled Web, and
Tangled Web, which led to a couple issues of Peter Parker's Spider-Man.
wow, I mean, yeah, your first gig like writing
It was
at that
crazy. It
time,
was,
especially the pinnacle character at the company.
yeah. And then after that, I did a Doctor Octopus miniseries, like an origin series. And by that time, I had moved from Colorado to LA to try to break in, but I didn't know what to do, so I basically just sat around writing my comics.
Break into what TV and film?
Yeah, TV and film. And so then, yeah, for like the next, yeah, probably 10 years, I just chugged away, ground away, and then eventually the guys that were working at Wizard when I won those awards, they went off and made Robot Chicken. And around season 3 of Robot Chicken, they remembered that goofy kid that used to send in those videos. And then they found out I was living in LA, so I worked for one cycle of season 3, which was, I think at that time, 5 episodes. So you'd kind of work for 5 weeks, and at the end of 5 weeks, you'd have 5 episodes done, and you were just pitching comedy, which I think was good. In comedy, you learn really quickly that you're not allowed to have extra words anywhere,
Right.
or they'll get cut. They'll get cut in animatic, and which I think is good. I think that's helps my comic book writing as well. Like, no one should have to read anything they don't have to read. So everything on the page should be of the utmost importance and have been condensed to just the hits.
Right.
It's weird. I don't know if this is if I have ADD or something like that, but when I turn a comic book page and I just am confronted with like a wall of text, like just a shit ton of words and dialogue, it's like that dialogue better be really, really good,
Yeah, and I mean,
or
I think the only
I'm gonna
exception,
check out.
the only exception is someone like Frank Miller, right? Where it's like, all right, well,
Yeah.
I'm gonna knuckle in and see
Yeah,
what Batman's thinking about. But
yeah, and there's a few people that you know, like I figure if like someone like Grant Morrison has that many words on a page, I trust him. Okay, I'll pound through it. But if it's just like a comic I'm picking up to have fun, I want it to move. Like that's what I find that is important to me, that the reading experience, it kind of drags you along. You don't have to, like, once you start reading the first couple panels, you should want to keep going. It should never feel like a chore. So I think a big part of that is you can take out anything that doesn't need to be there. I learned that directing Robot Chicken, where a lot of sketches, you watch them as animatics before they've been animated. It has the dialogue and the storyboards, and you're like, oh my god, we are so screwed. This isn't funny. This doesn't work at all. And then you get in there and all you do is take out anything that doesn't need to be there. Anything that absolutely isn't buying the time it takes for it to happen. And you take all that stuff out and it's 30 seconds shorter, and suddenly it moves and it's working. And I think that goes for writing as well, that you just take out stuff that doesn't have to be there, no matter how much you love it. If it doesn't need to be there, just take it out.
Well, I feel like writing comedy, especially in comics, is probably the toughest gig you can do. Anybody can write, like I said, Batman punching the Joker, but it's very hard to make someone laugh out loud reading just anything.
For sure.
Because you don't have actors doing it. Like people might not be like that funny themselves. So that's a tough gig.
Yeah, like a funny actor can make any line funny, but with comics, it's just someone reading it in their voice, and yeah, I think that writing comedy comics is harder than writing just like the dramatic stuff, for sure.
So have you written a lot of dramatic stuff, or are you mostly pegged for comedy?
I'm mostly comedy, but I have snuck in some dramatic stuff. The Dr. Octopus miniseries I did was pretty dark. The Hellions, what I'm working on now, is pretty dark, but it's hard. I keep like putting little jokes in there, so I don't know. Maybe I can't turn it off at this point. But Ant-Man was funny, but I like going back and forth. It's fun to do both.
So can you talk a bit more about Hellions?
Yeah. So I don't know if you've been keeping up with the House of X, Powers of X stuff, but
no,
Jonathan Hick.
I haven't. No.
Yeah, I think it feels like when Grant Morrison came in and had like an incredibly strong take for the X-Men that I feel like informed the X-Men for 8 or 9 years. And I feel like this is another one of those like super strong takes that changes everything, but is also respectful for everything that came before. Like, I feel like when you're coming on X-Men and they ask you for your take on it, it's so convoluted and so crazy. Like, all the stuff that's happened, the continuity is so crazy at this point that your choice is to either take the easy way, which is to just sort of do some sort of soft reboot where you say, like, okay, none of that matter. You don't have to know any of that. Let's just focus on this stuff. Let's pretend that stuff didn't happen. Or you try to process all of that old shit into something new. And it feels like Jonathan Hickman took the hard way and has somehow come up with a new status quo where all the mutants are living on an island together as one community, the heroes, the villains. They're going to make a run for preserving mutant kind into the future. And they can now resurrect themselves because they've pooled all of their mutant powers in interesting ways. So it's this awesome and kind of scary new status quo that feels sort of like hard sci-fi, but also is respectful to all the soap opera and everything that came before. So when I read that, I got excited and thought that, oh, here's somebody out there that's like really trying to do something hard, which excited me. And so when I saw Hickman at a creative retreat that I got invited to at Marvel, I think simply because I live here now, so they didn't have to buy a plane ticket, so I got to go. But I kind of cornered Hickman at that retreat and asked him if I could do something. And so Hellions is about, in a world where the heroes and the villains are all living on this island, that raises, I think, a lot of questions. And so this is me exploring those questions. So
Right.
the team are characters like John Greycrow from the Marauders, like Nanny and Orphan Maker, Wild Child, these characters that have been known as evil or are like sort of evil if you believe in evil, which I don't really, but they're just bad guys who have bad history with other people on the island. And how does this new mutant society deal with that? Because they don't want to. Part of their thing is like mutants are evolved from humans, so maybe their morality is evolved too. These are all questions we're trying to answer while we do these books, and so that's what I'm trying to answer. Like, and then from that, with this team of misfits, to get into more simple ideas or maybe more universal ideas, like can you be redeemed? What makes someone a bad guy? So I don't know. It felt like a way to get some crazy characters together, which is fun, and then maybe deal with some bigger issues. One of which is like, what does society do with the people that don't fit in? Which I think every society has to deal with at some point, be it criminals or your homeless population or you're mentally ill. What do you do with the people that don't, the square pegs in the round holes? What can we do with those? And is there maybe a more compassionate way to do it than humans have been doing it throughout history?
Wow, that's pretty deep.
That's pretty deep. Yeah, and I've been having fun, and now we're go. The first arc is done, but only the first issue came out before everything went to hell. So,
Who's the artist?
but I think the artist is Steven Segovia.
Nice.
Who's doing a really great job. He's stellar. He's obviously giving it 110%. So again, it was one of those situations where I thought that Jonathan's work and the work that all the other writers had done, if I went into that world, I couldn't coast. I would need to try really hard and work at the best of my abilities. So that sounded exciting to me.
So is X-Men like, what is that your jam at Marvel?
I don't know. I feel like Spider-Man is.
Yeah, me too.
I like Spider-Man a lot, but I mean, X-Men was pretty huge for me growing up, and
well, if you're a kid in the '80s, that was the team, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was huge. And then once you have Silvestri coming on and Whilce Portacio, and
Jim Lee,
Jim Lee, yeah, it's like, how could you not love those books back then?
Well, I grew up a McFarlane kid all the way.
Yeah.
So
man,
Spidey was my jam.
I remember when those Amazing Spider-Men were coming out, and you just couldn't wait to see. Like, all they had to do was tease at the end of the comic that, like, oh, the Scorpion will be in the next issue, because you knew he was going to get a badass redesign.
Yeah. From
Todd McFarlane, and you couldn't wait to see what he was going to do.
Well, I was fine because I was just a baby, so I never.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I was born in 1990, so
okay.
I wasn't there for any of that stuff. I found Todd McFarlane's Spider-Man because I had bed sheets as a kid with his artwork on it, where Spider-Man's fighting the lizard, and I was like, this is the coolest thing I've ever seen.
Yeah.
And then when I moved to America, I found a place that sold comics, and I was like, that's the guy from my bed sheets. So that's how I got into McFarlane.
Yeah, it's hard to explain how exciting it was to have him show up on the scene because comic book art was varied, but it all kind of looked a certain way.
Mm-hmm.
Or maybe that's an oversimplification, but
Yeah, but I mean, you were forced to.
nothing had looked like that before.
Yeah, I mean, whoops. You know, it was all about house style then, wasn't it? You had to
Yeah,
conform to a certain style.
yeah.
The John
And then
Byrne
that
look.
showed up, and like if you walked into the 7-Eleven and saw one of his Spider-Man covers on the rack, you were buying that comic. It was like crack to a little 11-year-old's mind. Like there was no getting away from it.
And I mean, I was because I was buying action figures at the time, and this is when they had this line called the Marvel Legends line of toys,
Mm-hmm.
where you get a toy, but you'd also get a comic book. And I gotta say,
Mm.
whose ever idea was that, you know, that's I wouldn't be drawing comic books today if that didn't happen. Because yeah,
Uh-huh.
I wanted a cool like Daredevil toy, but then it's so weird because most of the toys came with Tom McFarlane drew like one issue of Daredevil in the '80s, and that's the comic they chose to put with it. But
Whoa.
for some reason, I was like, hey, what? Like, and I feel like maybe it was a bit of a jab to him because he had McFarlane toys, so they're like,
Right.
let's just like chuck a loads of McFarlane at it and see maybe we can make some money.
Yeah.
But
Oh, that was another thing when his toys started coming out. That was crazy. When they started looking as cool as they did in the comics,
well,
that was huge.
I've got here a McFarlane toy, which is something that I co-created with Todd McFarlane, which is a prized
Whoa.
possession of mine right there. This is a baby.
Wow.
This is a baby spawn, and he has a butt. So
Wow.
again, I really want to do the serious stuff, but when McFarlane wants you to draw a stupid, you know, poop and fart joke, I can't say no to that.
Yeah. So how'd you come into his orbit?
Well, I was doing Great Lakes Avengers, and that book was on the chopping block, and that was my first ever book in Marvel, and I was thinking, like, I don't know if I'm gonna get another job. I have no idea. This is my first run. Like, I just like moved into a house, and I was, you know, paying rent for the first time, and supporting my girlfriend, and then I was, you know, basically all this anxiety just hit me at once. Like, I gotta get a
Yeah.
job. So I
Uh,
was like, well, I love Tom McFarlane, and I figured out his email by sending a bunch of like fake emails like todd.mcfarlane.at.stuff, and one eventually went swoosh and went through, and I was like, oh my god. And then someone on the other end said, we really like this stuff. Todd's thinking about making a Spawn Kills Everyone book. He's gonna call you in like 2 hours. Is that okay? I was like,
oh my
I
God.
was like, okay. And then I chatted him on the phone, and we started coming up with a story, and it was amazing. And yeah, this is probably the best experience I've ever had in my life professionally, because he is my art idol. Like, he's the reason I
Yeah.
got into comics. So just to work with it, even though, like I said, we were making dick and fart jokes, it didn't matter
Yeah.
because I had so much fun. And I guarantee that book led me to doing Spider-Ham, because I was drawing a cute little version of Spawn.
Yeah.
So I think that all sort of led to it. But that was that was crazy.
Yeah. As you were kind of developing your style, was that part of your style growing up, or is that something you developed later on?
What, McFarlane?
No, like the cute, like a Spider Hamish
That happened all by
thing,
accident
or
because I'm. It's funny. I've actually been using this time off to study how to shade with solid blacks, because I'm actually terrible at it, and that's why my stuff looks cartoony, because I don't use a lot of solid blacks. And then
right, right, right.
I'm a big Greg Capullo fan as well, and I really love his work on Spawn. And if you don't have all the cool rendering and shadowing, then it is just like a kid's cartoon
Yeah.
look.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
So that's why my stuff leans toward that. Never my intention at all whatsoever. You know, I went into this being like, I want to be the next John Byrne, but that, you know, not. Yeah, but no, I'm happy where I am. Look, I got a job, so I can't complain, right?
Yeah. Well, that'd be interesting to see your stuff with more shading on it. I bet. How's it coming? How's the?
Good. I'll send you something after. Actually, people can look. I posted on my Instagram. I did a sample page of Superman and Batman, and I like put my all into it. So there's a sample there of more of a serious look. But no,
Okay, I'll check it out.
this break's been good. Like, to be honest, as you know, as awful as stuff is going on in the world, I've really needed to not have a deadline hanging over my head, because I've had a deadline now
Yeah.
for, I mean, way probably less than you, but a good 5 or 6 years. So just taking a
Yeah,
step back
yeah.
from that has been really great.
It has been interesting to be forced to slow down a little bit. I don't think it's all bad. It's You see how almost neurotically I was trying to fill my time with a bunch of stuff, or
Yeah.
you always felt like you had to be somewhere or go somewhere, and it's nice to just slow down.
Well, especially if you're living in some place like New York City.
Yeah, there's always something going on.
Because when I lived in New Jersey, I lived in Bergen County, so I was like a 40-minute train right away. I used to go see shows at the Beacon Theater and Madison Square Garden and stuff, and
Uh-huh.
yeah, I loved it.
Yeah, it's a great city.
Ray's Pizza.
Mm. When's the last time you were out here?
2012 New York Comic Con was the last time I was out there.
Okay.
I was there with like an indie book that had a storm. But no, it's been a while. I do want to start making New York Comic Con a regular thing. And this year I was like, I'm going to do it this year, but that's obviously not going to happen now.
It's grown a lot since 2012. I think you'll be shocked.
It was huge then.
Yeah, it keeps getting bigger every year.
Well, that's scary because it was shoulder to shoulder then.
Yeah.
And that was when it was like Walking Dead hype everywhere as well.
Uh-huh.
So I couldn't imagine it now.
Yeah, I think they finally ran out of space. They opened up everything. That was the first time I'd gone on the last time it was here, we went on a Sunday and it was shoulder to shoulder. And it usually clears out a little bit on Sunday.
That's crazy. You know, I just ran out of red marker, which is going to drive me nuts.
Okay, so you're doing this
I'll hold it up for you so you can
freehand.
Yeah. So you can see
Yeah.
whacking my mic there. Just ran out of red.
So which character did you create in Spider-Ham? Remember in issue 5, you snuck someone into the background?
I did, yeah.
Or...
I talked about that yesterday. It was Union Quack.
Union Quack.
That's my addition.
That's your contribution.
Yep.
I think the thing I was most happy about is that in that cartoon world, the X-Men were all bugs. They were called like the X-Bugs, and they all kind of looked the same. I was most excited about getting the chance to, like, with you, create different versions of the X-Men for that world.
Well, the funniest thing was I thought you created all of these characters.
Uh-huh.
And I was like there was some when I was like Hulk Bunny. Why did he choose Hulk Bunny? I was like, that's such a weird choice. And then what I did was I just went back, and because I had to draw the original Spider-Ham at one point, and I went back and I just read all the old comics. I was like, what? I was like, how do all these characters actually exist already? This is crazy.
Yeah. Yeah, some of them, like, you don't quite know what the logic of Hulk Bunny was, or what the fun in that name was. It's just like, oh, he's Hulk and he's a bunny. But sometimes you have to play the ball where it lies. But I couldn't with the X-Men. X-Men, not when you're staring Wolverine in the face.
Oh yeah, Wolverine that's the best.
You gotta bring Wolverine to life.
I want to do a couple like one-page minis of that.
Yeah.
Someone asked, do you guys think Deadpool lacks depth?
Does Deadpool lack depth? Yeah. I mean, he's a different flavor of character that is super fun to write, and I think you can tell fun stories. But if you're wanting to tell a super deep story, you would have to be very clever about how you do that.
I think
because I don't think that character gets deep. Yeah.
I think the movies do that kind of well as well, because he has the whole love interest and cancer side to him as well
That's true.
There's plenty of dark and deep stuff you can do. It's much like Peter Parker in that vein, where it's all front street, but you know deep down that man is deeply depressed.
Yeah. No, I think you're right. Like in Deadpool 2, I think when they did get real with like the family stuff or how he kind of made a family by the end of it, it hit a lot harder because he doesn't usually care about or pretends like he doesn't care about
Mm.
that stuff. So yeah, that's a good point.
I used to love collecting like '90s and early 2000 Deadpool comics. Do you
Hmm.
know the artist Ian Churchill?
Yeah.
He drew my favorite Deadpool.
When was he doing it? Who was writing it when he
I have no idea who was writing it. Um,
was he talking to the was he
excuse me.
talking was he breaking the fourth wall at that point? Or
No,
was
he
he
wasn't.
more just an assassin? Yeah.
No, he wasn't breaking the fourth
Because
wall.
what he had a long run or longish run where he was just sort of an assassin, right?
Yeah, just a mercenary. Yeah, the muck with the mouth. No, I used to. Yeah, I used to be really into that. It's weird. Yeah, Spidey's always been my jam. I'm actually quite a big DC fan. Like, I do love Batman. He's my favorite superhero. That would be like my dream job. It would to be working on a Batman book.
Yeah, I think I think when everyone says, or when a lot of people say they're DC fans, what they're saying is they're Batman fans, and
Yeah,
then that bench drops off really quick. You've got
I love Super.
Superman,
I do love Superman
and
as
then
well.
you've
That's
got Batman, then you've got Superman, and then oh, it's a big drop, Will. It's a big drop.
Green Lantern's pretty cool, I guess.
Uh-huh, sure.
He could be fun, maybe.
Sure, sure, sure. Yeah, and then certainly once you get past the JLA, it's just a void. There's nothing,
Yeah,
Will.
well, you know what there is. There's Batman villains. They make comics about them. Batman side
That's
characters, Bat
yeah.
Family, Robin, Nightwing. It's fine. There's loads.
Yeah, they're doing fine.
I think Dan Didio used to say like I think his tagline was the only place you can draw Batman is DC Comics. I'm like, well, that is true.
It's a good pitch.
So I usually work.
What
Sorry, go ahead.
what's your favorite Batman costume?
What, from comics or movies?
Yeah, or from comics.
Um, I don't know. I the first comic like graphic novel I sat down to actually read was The Long Halloween.
Mm-hmm.
And after I read that, like I went to like my mom. I was like, "Mom, you gotta read this. Like this is like it's not Batman. It's like this is like really good stuff." So I used to love that costume, but I gotta say it's probably gonna be the Frank Miller Dark Knight Returns costume. There's just something
Yeah,
so freaking cool about that,
yeah. That bat symbol
and just the big Hulk
with no
Batman.
outline. Yeah.
Why? What's yours?
Uh, well, I might have to say I like the one with the yellow and the black, the one that's more like the movie, the 80s movie
Hmm.
costume, the first one.
Yeah, that's like one of my all-time favorite movies. I think I quote that daily and listen to those Prince songs all the
Yeah.
time.
Yeah, Will, I gotta go old man on you again, but the summer the summer I think that movie came out in 88,
89.
89, and the summer of 88 they started putting Batman posters. So a full year before it came out, they put those Batman posters up in movie theaters. And man, the hype for that movie
Yeah, it was
was
one of the
so
biggest
exciting.
like marketing. 'Cause I wrote a because I went to film school and that was one of the papers that I decided I wanted to write. It was like a dissertation. I was like,
Uh-huh.
I want to write about the hype of the '89 Batman movie coming out.
Oh, nice. Yeah, it was crazy. And the comic stores got a huge bump.
Yep, and serial marketing. That Bat logo became like the
Oh,
symbol of the late '80s.
yeah. And I think so after I saw that movie, because I wasn't a big Batman fan.
Did you like the movie when you saw it?
I did, yeah. I did, but I even then, even at that point, I was such a Marvel fanboy
Right,
that I sort of begrudgingly liked it because I didn't like seeing DC get a win like that.
right.
But
Well, there was no
yeah,
real
yeah, of
Marvel
course.
movie at that time, was there?
No, no, it was all trash.
Maybe you had like the Fantastic Four on like VHS or something like that.
Yeah. Or like there'd be TV movies, like there was The Incredible Hulk, and then they did TV movies where he fought Daredevil, not in any sort of costume that looked like Daredevil.
There's like a
Or
Captain America movie that came out as well, like a couple years later, or
yeah,
something like
yeah, that was trash.
that.
And so I think X-Men was the first one that was decent.
I think
And what was that? That was
Blade was, but it
2000.
was
Blade, yeah, Blade was
Blade's. I think is still one of the best action movies ever made.
for sure.
That opening scene, where it's when he walks in that room and everyone's covered in blood and his
Yeah,
suit is so clean. It's like the most baller thing I've
yeah,
ever seen in my
yeah.
life. Oh, Todd Knock was in the chat. Hey, Will and Zeb, long time fan. Who is your favorite D-list superhero? That's from Todd Knock.
D-list. I think I've got a soft spot. I don't know if Speedball is D-list. I would consider him D-list, but I have a soft spot for him. I like his attitude. I liked riding him on the New Warriors, and he's a little indefensible because his powers are so goofy and his costume is terrible. But I like the cut of his jib. I like his attitude. He's a way to sort of, you can sort of write Spider-Man if they're not letting you write Spider-Man at the
Right.
time, because he's got the same sort of optimism, and he doesn't take everything too seriously. So maybe that's why I like him.
I think I would have to say, after working Great Lakes Avengers, it's Flatman because he's just a
Oh yeah,
really
great.
pointless superhero that's just hilarious. He doesn't have much use.
But hi Todd, it's good to hear from you.
Let's see here. Is there a character not already in Spider-Ham's universe you didn't create for the series that you'd want to add?
I don't think so, Will, because right when we started, I made a list, and I made a very long list.
Well, you said what are your favorite Marvel characters, and I made a list, and you pretty much turned most of them
Yeah,
into
yeah.
animal characters.
And then I was looking up websites that were like the top 100 Marvel characters, the top 200 Marvel
Mm-hmm.
characters, and I would just go through there, and any of them that I had any affection for whatsoever, I would put on the list, and I'm almost positive we got them in there. I mean, we even got Omega Red in there, didn't we?
Omega Ram.
Omega Ram, yeah. Oh, awesome. Yeah, so I guess the answer to that is no, because we really did not censor ourselves at all.
No. What was Oh yeah, people were asking on yesterday's stream because I forgot the name of it. What was the name of the blade fish?
Oh, I think it was okay. First off, a disclaimer: they can't all be winners, Will.
Okay,
But it was Merblade.
Merblade. Right. And what's the thought process behind Merblade?
Mermaid, and he's
Oh,
Merblade.
mermaids, Merblade. I see now.
So not the best. I wonder if I could find the paper where I was working all of that out, because there was a lot of thought that went into that, because you could either do
Merblade.
words, replace a word with one that rhymes like it,
Mm-hmm.
or you could just add an animal name on top of it, or you could add, what else did I do? At one point, I was just looking up animals. And if the animal name like even had the same amount of syllables as the character's name, you could replace it with an animal name. I had a whole algorithm, Will, to sort out these animal names. And were they always dunks? to speak in NBA terms you'll understand? No. They were not always dunks. And was Merblade a dunk? No.
Absolutely. Absolutely, it was a slam dunk. You didn't make the pun Fisher, right?
No, I did not make the pun Fisher. I might have done something different with him, although I do think he looks cool. But there's something weird about the fish characters being out in the air that I didn't love. So I might
I didn't
not
know what
have...
to do for them to make them like look like they fit in the world.
Yeah, yeah. So I probably wouldn't have done Pun Fisher, but hey, I did Merblade, so
Merblade,
I've got
man.
my high horse
I'm
isn't
looking
looking
forward
too
to
good.
the Merblade action figure that's going to be coming out.
Yeah.
Could you imagine if Merblade's something that ended up in like a Marvel movie? That'd be ridiculous.
I mean,
Well,
give it
that's
50
my one.
years.
That's my one character that's made it in Merblade.
Yeah. Give it 50 years when every television show and every movie is a Marvel movie, and they'll have to keep digging.
So, have you any? How many characters have you created for Marvel?
Not many. I think when I first started writing, you're like a kid in a candy store, and I was more excited about getting a chance to write characters that I grew up loving, and that went for villains too, than I did actually creating characters. So I am trying to I'm trying to push myself towards like creating bad guys instead of using bad guys that have always been there just as a rule, because I don't know, you always want to put your own spin on things. You've always dreamt about writing a story with this character, so it always just feels more fun if it's a character I know.
I think the opposite.
And yeah,
any chance to create is that's my jam. I love it.
Yeah, I think that's probably the more healthy attitude. And
I guess it's easier because you don't have to create a whole psyche. You could just go to a well of, this is exactly how this guy thinks.
Yeah, I think it is easier. Like you're more coloring in the lines, and I think that's safer and it feels easier. And so, like with my creator-owned stuff and writing at Marvel now, I'm trying to. And I did a 10-pager with Todd where we created a bad guy together because I'm trying to flex those muscles a little more.
Was it like a sort of scorpion-like guy or someone with a tail?
No, it was like a guy. It was like a sort of alien lizard type creature, but he was from a world where the different colors had magical meanings. So he was like a trippy interdimensional Green Lantern almost, and he had little colored imps.
What, like Pikmin?
Like who?
The video game characters Pikmin.
Oh, Pikmin? Yeah, sort of like Pikmin.
Was that
Was
that a deep cut for you?
Yeah, I was not expecting a Pikmin reference.
Oh, well, I'm up on my Pikmin. So.
Is that game good?
I've never played it in my life.
Yeah, neither have I. It looks too weird.
But it's you control little multicolored minions to I don't know, get out of space or something like that.
And they kind of hang out.
Yeah, I think they kind of just hang out.
I think it's like you don't fight anyone, right? They just hang out.
I think you have to like use them to build a bridge and fix a spaceship and stuff like that. They might fight. I don't know. I'm not. I wouldn't say I'm the Pikmin. The guy to go to for Pikmin stuff.
Well, you're certainly acting like it.
I just I had a GameCube as a kid. I remember these references.
Great.
I'm sure you had a GameCube as an adult.
Oh yeah. Yep, I think I showed up at Best Buy like 4 hours early and waited in line to get one.
To get Pikmin?
No, not Pikmin.
I gotta get Pikmin, man. It looks great.
Yeah. I think the big game was Star Wars when that came out.
Oh, what,
there was a Star Wars
Rogue
game.
Squadron game?
Yeah.
Yeah.
The graphics were incredible for the time.
You know, that game's still not bad.
Yeah.
I'm a bit of a that's my biggest nerd side, I guess, is I'm a bit of a retro game person.
Mm-hmm.
So someone said, "Oh my gosh, it's Zeb freaking Wells." What would? Oh, someone recommended Cosmic Goose Rider as one of them.
Mm.
We did have a Ghost Rider.
Yeah, and I think that was one that would predated us, Goose Rider.
Was it?
Yeah, it was weird once you started looking how many characters had already been created.
It was shocking. Like I said,
Yeah.
I thought you had created all of them.
Yeah, I think Goose Rider. I don't think we could have improved on Goose Rider. That's a great one.
Let's see here. What's the best way to create and write a new original villain for a pre-existing superhero? Oh, and Todd said we created Dichromator. Is that right?
Dichromator. That's right. Yeah.
Okay.
Absolutely. I think when you're creating for a pre-existing hero, you just want to look for what would test that hero the most, or what is that hero's opposite thematically, or a way you do want to think about them through the lens of the hero. Like, how are they going to challenge the hero? What would be the worst thing that this hero could face that would make him face things about him or herself, about their powers, about their place in life, which is all like airy stuff. And then, of course, you just want it to look cool.
That it?
That's it. It's not easy. It's not easy.
Let's see. Yeah, people are talking about Todd in the chat. Thank you for joining.
Well, I don't
Todd.
like that.
What?
He showed up just to pull focus.
Yeah, I'm sure he did.
He's trying to get followers right now.
Yeah, I don't think he's going to get
Todd.
any from me. I mean, I think everyone that follows me already follows him anyway.
So he's doing a victory lap. I'll figure out what he's doing here. I know it's bad. Something's up.
Let's see. Well, I'm nearly done on my end.
All right.
I couldn't click on.
So you got these things down to an hour. You know exactly.
It was not my intention, but it just happened, and that's fine by me.
Okay, let's see it. Or you're not quite done.
I'm not quite done. Just little extra touches. Just yeah, there we go. I ran out of red, so the red doesn't look that great. But I hate everything I draw, Zeb. Absolutely everything. Spider-Ham, crap. Loads of crap. I could have done so much better.
I think you did a great job.
I hate myself, so anyway. So we got a ham here.
Oh yeah. That is great.
And I'm going to put you on the spot right now. On each one of my streams, I give away a free copy of one of our Spider-Ham comics.
Okay.
Because of the digital download code. So for anybody watching, if you want to win a digital copy, Zeb is going to ask a question now that has something to do with what we talked about on the stream. And you have to answer that question correctly, and spelling is appropriate. Todd, I guess you can win one if you try and do it if you're still watching.
Okay, so you have to name a Marvel character that was not, the animal version was not featured in Spider-Ham, our series.
So you have to name a character that was an animal that we didn't put in there?
Okay, no, I've got a better one.
All right.
I've got a better one. In the Spider-Ham series,
right,
you have to name a Marvel character that was in the Spider-Ham series, but their animal counterpart was not featured.
Say that again?
A Marvel hero that was in the Spider-Ham series, the 5 issues we did, a human Marvel character whose animal counterpart was not featured in the Spider-Ham series?
I don't even know if I know the answer to that question.
Well, I can tell you in secret, Will.
Well, okay, let's see here. Someone said, I want to see an absolute Barnage event.
Yeah, that would be fun.
If you and Zeb could be any Marvel character for 24 hours, who would you both be? Nightcrawler, so I could just see all the places in the world I want to see and then go back home and be done with it.
I'm in New York, so I'd have to do Spider-Man because I'd have to swing around these buildings, see what's up.
Actually, afterwards, you're like, you know what? Not that great. Overrated.
Not that great, yeah. I'll take a cab.
Let's see. We got, someone said, Dogpool, Recuse. Todd said Recuse. Who's Recuse? R-E-C-U-S-E. Oh, no, never mind. He's saying that he's not doing it. Franklin Richards, is that the right answer?
Yes, it is.
All right, Piercy, you win issue 1 of Spider-Ham. Please email me at robsonrequest@gmail.com. And if you'd
nice work.
If you'd like to receive any commissions from me right now, as my commission list is open, please also email me at robsonrequest@gmail.com as well. Please, Zeb, plug away what you want to plug, your socials, what's going on, everything like that.
My Twitter is at ZebWells on twitter.com. And that's about it. Read Hellions when it comes out, please. That's coming out in July, issue 2. You can get issue 1 now. And that's it.
And Spider-Ham, that's coming out next month, the final issue.
I forgot. I keep forgetting that's not out yet. Oh, and Ant-Man.
Ant-Man
is not out yet. Issue 4 is available digitally right now, and issue 5 will come out next month. So check them out.
Awesome. Well, thank you very much for joining. Thank you everybody in the chat for joining, and I'll see you guys tomorrow where we'll be drawing a Spider-Man from Spider-Man the Animated Series with my brother, and that should be fun. All right, guys.
Ooh.
Thank you very much, and we'll see you another time.
See you later.